thanks for clicking on the video. Today I'm in the woodland, I'm at the Roundhouse. I'm about to cook some food up. I've got something really tasty in this pot, but to find out exactly what that is, let's rewind 72 hours. Today I'm on the coast again. I'm after a few lobsters. The thing is, I need to put a trap out and leave it 24 hours and then come back and see if there's anything in the traps. What I've got today, I've got 3 of these traps. You know what? These are actually used for crayfishing. I use these in the summertime, in the summer months when the crayfish come out of the riverbanks, and I use these to catch crayfish. However, I've adapted it slightly, and I'm now going to use this, which I have done in previous videos, to catch a lobster. The bait I've used is herring. That's all I could get today in the supermarket. I just spent like £1.50 on 3 herring, which is cheap as chips when it comes to the when you compare it to the price of a lobster. So I've got bait in there, which is 1 herring in there. I've got another trap, which is right here, with another herring in. And then what I do is I put a weight, I put a rock into the trap, and then I zip it up and I swim it out. The trap's tied to a line, which is tied to a buoy. And the line is obviously adjustable. So I always make sure that I know what the state of tide is and how big the tide range is overnight, to make sure that my trap doesn't suddenly float away for me never to be able to find it again. So that's one important thing. Another thing I've got, obviously I've got a hood because it's quite cold now. It's middle of October and the water temperature is starting to chill a bit. So I've got a hood and I've also got some fins. And then of course, to see what I'm doing down there in the water, I have my mask and my snorkel. That's the plan. Let's go put the traps out. So it's now 5:30 in the evening, 24 hours later. I'm about to swim out there and get the 3 pots I put out yesterday afternoon. Fingers crossed we'll get something to eat. Yeah, look at that. Got an absolute monster of a lobster. Brilliant. Right, let's go check the other 2 pots. we go. There's the second pot. 5, 6, 7 shrimps in there. Load of lady crabs and a lobster. Hey, that's quite a good result. Right, let's see what we got. So these lady crabs, we don't want these into the water. We're going to throw that one back as well. That one goes back. This one's got one claw. That's one lobster right there. And it looks like it's keepable. So we're going to just put that there for the moment. I've got a little plastic bag. I'm going to be taking my prawns home in. So we've got 1, 2, 8 fresh prawns. Lovely. Now let's have a look at the next trap. Let's get this big lobster out. And there we are, another lobster. Lobster for the win. There we are. So I'm going to put that one next to the other lobster. Leave that there, measure them in a minute. Another goby. Put that back. Another prawn. And look, that's quite a nice haul of prawns. A nice handful. There's a couple more in the bottom of the bag. Little brown crab, we don't want this. We're going to be putting this one straight back into the water. Oh, what a result. Well, I've just measured the lobsters and they're both legal size to keep. So it looks like I've got myself 2 lobsters and those fresh prawns, which I'm going to be taking probably to the camp tomorrow, to the Roundhouse, and I'm going to cook them up. It's going to be the first meal at the Roundhouse camp, and I cannot wait. I'll see you then. And that brings us back to here. But the first thing I need is a fire, so let's move over to the fire pit. The first thing I'm going to need is some sort of tinder bundle, because I'm going to do some fire lighting and I need to blow my ember into a flame. And this is left over from some of the projects we've been doing here in the woodland, and this is just some dried straw. And the next thing I need to light a fire is some way of creating that small ember in order to blow it to a flame, and for that I'm going to use one of these. It's called a fire piston. We'll get back to that in a minute. Now what we need is some wood and some kindling. Saw. These bone dry twigs are going to be excellent for those first stages of fire lighting. Once we've got our small, medium and large, it's then time to find some even bigger pieces. And over the last few months, every time I've ended up with a bit of extra wood, I've put it inside the wigwam shelter. So that's where I'm going to go and get it from. So we're in a good place. We've got everything ready for the fire lighting, and all we need to do now is create the fire or the flame. To begin with, I'm going to just remove this, and probably I overjudged it. I took too much of this straw out. I'm going to get rid of maybe about a third of it. And there we are, end up with this, and I'm just going to start with making what we call a bird's nest. My thumbs, I'm pressing them down like this, and then I'm rolling it around in order to create what looks like a bird's nest. In the middle of there, I'm going to drop a little bit of tinder. Now the tinder you can use is anything from a natural to an artificial or even a man-made tinder. What do I mean? Well, you can use anything from a fungus to a bit of burnt cotton rope. Here we are, this is a bit of burnt cotton rope, otherwise known as charred cloth. You don't have to use rope, you can use anything from 100% cotton, denim trousers, a kitchen tea towel, anything like that. So make sure it's 100% cotton before you char it. To find out how to make charred cloth, maybe once this video is ended, okay, then check out on Google or YouTube how to make charred cloth. Right, here we are, back to the program. I'm going to put my charred cloth into my bird's nest like that, nestled in the middle, and then going to get these two components out of the fire piston. What a fire piston does is it creates fire by compressing air. What do I mean? Well, when air is rapidly compressed, it heats up. For example, there's a rubber washer right there. If I hold my hand, you should be able to just about see there's a rubber washer there. And as that's inserted, and I slam that down, the air will become trapped at the bottom of the barrel. What will happen is when air is rapidly trapped and compressed, it will heat up. Now, knowing that, we can put a tinder or a dried fibrous material on the end of this. So when that's compressed rapidly in that moment of compression, the tinder will hopefully, fingers crossed, will end up with a glowing ember. Because that's what happens, air compresses to a certain degree, to a temperature, which ignites your tinder. So there we are, but to begin with, I'm just going to put some lubricant on here because it needs a bit of Vaseline on it. Back in the day, this would have been animal fat, for example. These metal aluminium rods would have been bamboo or a hardwood hollowed out, and the rubber washer could well have been a form of animal hair, twisted or braided, tucked into a groove, cut with a sharp stone. So as you just saw that, I put some Vaseline on my finger. I've wiped the rubber washer onto my finger. Why? Because we're trying to get a nice smooth compression. So if I press it in as hard as I can, it should spring back. And there you are, it springs back. We know we've got a good seal. Now we need a tinder. In the end of these, there is storage of, for the tinder. So I don't need all of this. I'll just take it out just for a demonstration. This is the tinder. Once again, it's some more charred cloth. I'll pinch off a very small piece of this charred cloth, like that. I'm now going to press this charred cloth into the end of the fire piston rod, ensuring there's a few of the fibers that are poking out at the top. So there we are, it's at the top there. I'm now going to insert this. I'm now going to press it down rapidly into my hand. Remember, when air is rapidly compressed, it heats up. So we should see a glowing ember as soon as I pull it out. Well, I hope you can see that on the camera. And now, using the charred cloth that I put inside the bird's nest, I'm going to transfer the ember from this to this. So you can see that there. I'm going to place that in there. You know what, I might as well, I'm just going to use a bit more of this charred cloth and just stick it all in there. Why not? I've got plenty more at home. And now, so at this point, we're not in a rush. We know we've got a nice smouldering ember. You can see it's starting to smoke already. I now need to blow it into a flame. Once I've got the flame, I'm going to place it down, put my small sticks, medium sticks, larger sticks, and build it up in order to get a fire going. Come on, let's get to it. You can see the smoke is quite a thin, light grey smoke. The nearer we get to the flame, the thicker, darker browner the smoke will become. Saying that, this tinder is quite dry, so it might go up quite quickly. You can see the colour change already, quite a thick, dark brown, creamy smoke. And we should be 1 or 2 blows away from a flame. There we are, there's our flame. I'm going to place it down onto my tinder, sorry, onto my board right there. I'm going to start with my small sticks like this. It looks like I'm smothering it, but I'm not. It might go out, well, it won't go out. It might slowly go out, as in the flame will reduce, but I'll just go from the other side and I'll give it a blow. So I'm not panicking right now. I know we're in a good place. And before I do continue blowing, I'm just going to place a few more here. It looks like, well, so what it looks like now is we've got this almost this lean-to shelter that I've created using some of these sticks. I'm now going to lean down and blow in, and what's going to happen is it's going to start off with a small, medium and large, and eventually catch into a nice big flame, which will then allow us to cook up our catch. Speaking of which, I'm going to talk you through that in a minute. You see, that just needed that one blow, and already we're in a good place. Our lean-to shelter of a fire, we've angled it into the wind, which means that the wind is coming down, it's hitting this, it's blowing it, it's actually fueling the fire for us. I'll just put some more of these sticks on the back. Once again, you can see how the wind's blowing the flame into our sticks. That's exactly what we want. Right, let's get the food ready. And before we do the food, let me quickly show you one more feature. If I unscrew this rod, what you see here is a fire steel. Now this, when you strike it with a sharp piece of metal, usually a bit of carbon steel, or even a sharp piece of flint, a flint stone that is, you'll end up with sparks. That's what we call the plan B, but we leave that and we normally just stick to plan A, which is lighting the fire by compressing air. On that note, if you're interested, you get 10% off at the bushcrafttools.com website by quoting the code bushcrafttools10. That is valid until the last day in November. Now let's get to the food. And by the way, they come in 3 different colours. Well, you already know what we're about to cook today, and that is a lobster that I caught last night. I've got it in here. It has been in the fridge now for about 8 hours or so. The reason being is because it was late last night, I couldn't cook it up straight away, and I wanted to save it for a nice day like today where I could come here and show you guys the camp, and also celebrate my first meal here at the Bushcraft camp at the Roundhouse, at the new Roundhouse structure. So you might be wondering, how have I kept this alive? Yes, it is alive. And how have I kept it alive? Well, the best way to keep something like a lobster or a crab alive in the fridge with that seawater is to get a tea towel or a kitchen towel, wet it, and then wrap it around the crab or the lobster. Then put it in a tray and then leave that in the fridge. That's the best way in keeping a crab or a lobster alive. Mind you, you won't want to do it for more than a day or two. However, here we are. So taking the lid off, you can see it's in here. I'll just remove this. So this is the damp tea towel. Real damp, and that's just been keeping it nice and cool. And you might have heard me in the video that I filmed yesterday when I caught this, talking about the size limit. Well, the size limit, the way we measure it is from the back of this shell to the back of the eyeball socket. And if that is greater than 87 millimeters, then it's a keeper. In fact, this one is 91 millimeters, which means it's way above the legal landing size, or the size that we can keep them. What I'm now going to do is just remove this. Whoa! I'll just thread that back on there. A little mishap, thank you very much. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to place my lobster right there. And now I'm going to dispatch it. So a lot of people won't want to watch this. I'll do it in my own time. I'll do it without you seeing, and I'll be back. The lobster's been dispatched, and we're going to be boiling it or steaming it in a little bit of water, but a bit of flavoursome water. So to start with, I'm going to put this on and fill it up with a little bit of water. So I've got this really small onion that I pulled out of the garden last week, but I guess it's quite small, but it doesn't really matter because it's all just a little bit of flavour to go in with our water. Some garlic, bash those like that, and then put them in. And this is just some seasoning mix. A little bit of that, and it's all going to give it that little bit more flavour. And if you're wondering how I dispatch the lobster, I put a knife straight through the back of the head and it kills it instantly. For any of you fishermen or hunters out there, you might see a little bit of twitching, but don't be alarmed, and the rest of you people that are watching, don't be alarmed. This is just nerves. I'm going to place that in there, and then straight away come in with the lid. All we need to do now is wait 12 minutes. And to go with the lobster, I've got some homemade garlic butter. So I'm just going to use this shell and then put my garlic butter straight onto the shell and just allow that to melt for the next few minutes. There's butter, there's garlic, and there's parsley in that. And there we are. This is my first meal to myself here at the Roundhouse. And to start with, I'm going to take one of these claws. This had somehow just fallen off, but sometimes that happens when you're cooking lobster. I've got my little wooden mallet, a basher tool, so I'm going to crack this open, dip it in some of my garlic dip. Oh, I can't wait, I'm so hungry right now. It takes a few cracks, go around the outside. There we are, just ease that off, just ease it off. Pull out that little bit right there, we don't want that. Nice juice and flavours on that. Let's see if we can get this off in one piece. Oh, have a look at that. To begin with, oh, trust me, this is so good. It doesn't even need the garlic dip, but we'll try it anyway. Mmm, look at that. Wow, 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 wow. Incredible. I'm going to use this. That's just going to help me ease out the rest of that meat. Oh. The thing about crab and lobsters is you have to work your way through all the individual sections. So let's go for this, the knuckle. It's quite easy to over crack it sometimes and hit it a bit too hard. What happens then is it turns into a paste, and it quite often splatters all over your shirt or in your eye. So it's best to do it a little bit at a time. Oh my goodness. Like that. So good. There we go, a nice piece of meat right there. Dip that in the garlic butter. Oh man. You know what? I wish I could share this with you guys. In a very selfish way, I'm glad I'm not, because then there's more for me. No, you're not getting anything. Let's move on to the other claw. Whoa, and this is an absolute whopper. This claw, you can see, this is the crusher, whereas the other claw, that's more of the ripper. It's more of the saw. So it's got a big strong crusher, and the other one's quite narrow, and it's got these very sort of serrated like teeth on it. Look at the size of that mussel. Mmm. Oh. Yeah, lovely nugget of lobster. Oh. Now before I move on to the tail, I'm going to make the most out of these legs. Mmm. If you bite them and work your way up, it squeezes out all of the meat. I'll show you another way. If I press it, you'll see all the meat will work its way out of the tail. Sorry, of the leg. Like that. Mmm. Best way to get to the tail is you just crush it inwards and then open it up. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this, dip that in the garlic butter, which has slightly solidified. It is quite a cold day, but I'll tell you what, it's still got the flavour. And then just remove this section here. That's one way of cleaning it. I'm just going to quickly heat this over the fire, get it melting again. Alright, merch plug number 2, they're on the website, have a look, bushcrafttools.com, or look down in the description and you can buy, there's 2 different designs of t-shirt and one of these which is a long sleeve t-shirt, and it's a casual look, plain on the back, nothing on the back at all. Right, let's get back to it. That tail there, straight in that garlicky, buttery, parsley goodness. Heaven. Mm. Wow. I don't know what to say. I'm stuffed. That was so good. Well, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Before I tuck into some of these brains, yes, believe it or not, I do enjoy eating some of these brains. I'm going to just say thanks for watching. If you like the video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below if you also eat the brains from lobsters or the crabs or prawns. Let me know as well if there's anything you can suggest. No. Let me also know if there's anything you can suggest that I should be cooking up here in the woods that can possibly top this lobster. But yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.